Hello and welcome to the Telegraph studio. I'm Alistair Greener and today we're going to be discussing analytics in the energy industry. And joining me is Spencer Rigler, who's the CEO of ONZO. Good morning.
Hi.
First of all, tell me, what are the main challenges that the energy industry faces at the moment?
I think the way we like to look at it is we see that there are in fact a huge number of opportunities. The reality is, yes, the utilities are facing increasing competition, there's a major change in the energy mix, but all of this really leads to the one challenge that they need to engage with their customers better. But that in itself therefore creates an opportunity.
And I can understand why that's important to the energy providers, the utility companies, but what's in it for the consumer?
Well, the reality is that the utilities need to engage the consumers as partners now. So the fact is that there are a number of things coming down the line in terms of a change in energy mix and probably other products and services which ultimately the consumer can take advantage of. But really the only way that that's going to happen is if the utility fundamentally understands their customer better and engages with them.
Okay, so can you give me some more specific examples of what you mean by that?
Well, of course, there's a lot of introduction of renewable technologies into the energy mix, and the reality is that we need to find ways that the consumer can effectively take advantage of that. So a typical example would be that wind generation is very topical. You need to ensure that you can find a time when the consumer will consume energy when the wind is blowing at its most. So the only way that you're going to achieve that is really understanding again how the consumer uses their energy and matching their energy use to, for example, wind generation at the right time.
Now, you mentioned earlier on about engagement. How do you actually go about engaging your customers?
Well, the energy industry will be very similar ultimately to previous industries, or current industries where the precedent has already been set. So, for example, if we look at telecoms, we look at shopping, online shopping, banking, online banking, all of those industries have fundamentally based their transition and their success almost on a personal engagement with the consumer. The energy industry will be no different. The only difference is at the moment is that the energy industry is not there yet. And so they need to fundamentally find a way to engage. And we believe this will be done through data analytics.
So you talk about data analytics there and all of that important information. When you're asking those questions, what are they? What are the sort of questions that you should be asking?
Well, I think ultimately the utility needs to be asking themselves, do I want to keep these customers? Do I want to keep these customers happy? Do I want to even grow my customer base? And generally the answer will always be yes to those. So really, in order to achieve that, you're going to have to fundamentally, again, understand and be able to personally interact with your customer to achieve those goals.
So you at ONZO, what are you doing to help achieve these analytics?
Well, there's obviously a number of examples that we can have, and but basically I split those into really two parts. So first of all, enabling the utility to have a better insight and understanding into their customer ultimately. So a good example would be that there's a lot of utilities today who are offering, for example, heating controllers, remote heating controllers to their customers. The reality is they're not necessarily understanding whether their customer needs that heating controller or not. But what data analytics gives you, it gives you the ability to understand that customer better and understand actually whether that heating controlling device would be useful to them and actually bring them benefit. So again, having that insight enables you to focus that particular device, if you like, towards that customer. A second really important example, which some might say is the most important example, is the fact that the ONZO is providing those tools for customers to get engagement and understanding to how their personal energy is being used. So a typical situation may be a mobile phone app or something like that, which actually you can actually see your energy use down in fact to appliance level, which helps you again understand and manage your energy more effectively.
So you at ONZO, what are you doing to help achieve these data analytics?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I mean, we're working with utilities in the UK, we're working with utilities in North America, and also in continental Europe. And And each utility often has its own different application or use for this. But I think a couple of notable examples. We worked with one utility where they were particularly focused on churn, so retaining their customers. And what we did there is we enabled them an engagement tool, an ability to actually understand their customer better, which in fact reduced by over 50% the amount of customers actually leaving their business, which was obviously very important because ultimately it costs more to acquire a customer than keep one. I think the very interesting next one is what I would term more sort of around behavioural change. So every utility is trying to sort of balance and manage their network as much as possible, their electricity network as much as possible. And again, they need to engage with their customers to do so. So we worked with one utility where we were able to, within a particular period of time of day, actually shift the energy usage to another part of the day, in fact reducing the amount of energy used in that period by over 11%, which in itself was great. But the important thing is that we were able to sustain that over a longer period of time down to an overall 5% reduction. Now, to a utility, that's really great. And I think the important thing is that was a sustained reduction. And again, that fundamentally came because there was a strong engagement individually with each one of those customers.
So given all of this, we now want to maybe fast forward 10 years and look at the industry then. As a result of these increased analytics, where do you see the industry?
I think it's very exciting. I think the reality is that the industry is sitting on a huge gold mine, and that gold mine is data. So again, if we look back to other examples, again in telco, online shopping, etc., those businesses have grown and they've developed and they've enhanced simply by having access to huge amounts of data. The energy industry will be no different. And I think what will happen, we will see in the energy industry in the future a whole raft of different services and solutions that the consumer will have access to simply because the utility will understand their customer better. And data will ultimately be the root of all of that.
Well, we've got some fascinating times ahead for the energy industry. In the meantime, Spencer Rigler from ONZO, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.